Welcome to the Dog Expert Podcast, the podcast dogs would want you to listen to. Powered by canineprinciples.com, helping passionate dog people go from feeling unsure and overwhelmed to confident, compassionate and science savvy through a rich library of online courses and formal qualifications. Each week on the podcast, we dive deep into the real, raw and rewarding world of dogs. This isn't about obedience. This is about understanding. Because dogs aren't problems to solve. They're free-thinking, sentient beings to connect with. Hello, good evening and welcome to episode 2 of season 4 of the Dog Expert Podcast. This evening we are joined by 3 fabulous people. We're joined by Dan O'Neill, Marisa Heath and Vanessa Barnes. We're coming together this evening on this episode to discuss the recently launched Innate Health Assessment, IHA tool. Since its release in December 2025, the IHA tool has generated some really strong reactions across parts of the dog world, and many have welcomed it and embraced it as a much needed welfare tool, whilst others have raised some concerns about the scope, the science, the impact and the implementation. So this podcast episode is to firstly explain more about what the IHA tool is and create some space really for a really constructive discussion about what it isn't as well as what it is. We're going to be looking at the purpose and the vision behind the Innate Health Assessment, how it was developed and who contributed to its framework, whether a checklist model can meaningfully influence breeding standards, and the scientific thinking underpinning the approach of the Innate Health Assessment tool. What really is the future for dog welfare without something in place? I think that because there are such strong feelings around this, it really shows that people are very passionate about dogs and the future of dog breeding across the globe. But to actually look at how we can improve the welfare and why this tool is necessary, or there is action needed to improve dog welfare, is so important. So we're going to hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak. I want you to really think, if you're listening to this live or if you're watching on playback or listening on the podcast channels, I really want you to think about what constructive questions you've got and how we can come together as an industry of dog lovers to make sure that the welfare of dogs is paramount in everything that we're doing. And if you have got any questions as we're talking this evening, please do post the comments. This is your opportunity to ask comments and have those constructive questions. What I would just say, though, is that we are all coming, you guys watching and us as well, we are all coming from a place of wanting a better future for dogs. So please do make sure that your comments are kind, constructive, and that we are all coming from a place of maturity and welfare-centered approach. So let me welcome Dan O'Neill, Marisa Heath and Vanessa Barnes. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us this evening, particularly Marisa. I mean, all of you, but particularly Marisa, because I know that you have a prior engagement this evening. So we're very grateful to you. And I know we've only got you for a limited window because you felt it was important to come on. So thank you for joining us. You are going to shoot off, I think, maybe in about half an hour. We need to make the most of you.
No, thanks for having us. We're really excited to be here.
Not at all. Not at all. So because there are so many of us on the call this evening, what I think would probably work well so that everyone gets a voice and how we how we manage to all share what we want to share is if I start off maybe talking a bit about why the IHA came about. So would it be best to come over to you, Dan, to start off on why the IHA tool came about?
Yeah, that's fine. And then we'll cycle through
we can't hear
Vanessa
you, Dan.
and Marisa. Yeah?
Yeah, brilliant. Can hear you.
Marisa, do you want me to start?
Yes, please.
Yeah, perfect. So, so if we start with the basic issue here, so extreme conformation, probably at the moment is the biggest health and welfare issue of dogs, and we're talking here of companion animal dogs, and that's essentially the background to the IHA. It is so simple. We have 12 million dogs in the UK, and about a quarter of them have some element of extreme conformation involving their life. For many of those dogs, that's quite maybe a minor element, but it is an issue. For many of them, it's a serious element. So the IHA itself, and we can talk later about how the science developed behind it, but it is the culmination of 10, 20, 30 years of research from veterinary researchers, ethical researchers, behavior researchers, exploring the quality of life dogs have and how it's impacted by extreme conformation. There are many elements to it. We have the ethics, the welfare, the social elements, but one of the key elements is legislation and political aspect. And this is where we have ended up with the conversation we're having tonight about the IHA itself, which is an APGAW tool. And that probably leads over to Marisa and Vanessa explaining the APGAW element. And as we go on through the podcast, I'm sure we're going to go back to the basic science again. So Marisa, maybe it's worthwhile you giving your approach.
Can you hear us now, Marisa? Because Marisa and I both had difficulties with our audio, so I'm not sure if she's getting this. I think she might have just had to leave and come back in, which is
Vanessa,
I just had to do a moment ago.
Pick up with that? With
now I can't hear you either, Dan. Joe, can you hear me?
I can hear you both. Yeah. Don't you love
I'm going to have to exit and come back in again, I think. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with the tech tonight.
While we're waiting for Vanessa and Marisa to come back in. Marisa, can you hear me now? No. Marisa, no?
I can hear you, Joe, but I can't hear Dan for some bizarre reason.
Oh, I can hear Dan as well. How bizarre.
Okay.
No,
Joe, do you want to translate across?
I'll have to try lip reading.
There we go. I think so.
I keep losing the audio, and I think Marissa's had the same issue. So.
Marisa can't hear Dan. I can hear everyone.
I can hear everyone.
You can hear everyone. Vanessa, can you hear Marisa?
Can you hear me?
I can now. I can now hear everybody, but a moment ago I couldn't hear anybody. So.
Okay. So over to Vanessa and Marisa.
So I presume Dan was sort of talking about his concept of innate health and how that came about. So in 2009, just after the pedigree dogs exposed, the MPs in APGAW, then a Labour chair, was very concerned about what he saw on that programme. So he asked me to run an inquiry, basically a parliamentary inquiry. So we brought lots of experts in and we wrote this report, A Healthier Future for Pedigree Dogs, and it set out the recommendations we thought to take things forward. And then that was followed with the Bateson report and the working group led by Professor Sheila Crispin, all set up people who wanted to really change things. And then in about 2022, I thought I better look back at this. We've been focusing on other things, licensing and farm animals and banning fur, all of these sorts of things. And we thought the parliamentary group should look back. And what we found was the problem had got worse, actually, and very little had changed. So we're a parliamentary group led by 3 veterinary surgeons, which is incredibly fortunate for us because they bring massive expertise with them. And they all agreed that this was probably the biggest welfare issue affecting companion animals. they were really concerned about it. So the parliamentary group thought to itself, we need to find a way of bringing stakeholders and those who care about this issue together to do something. And it may not be a perfect thing, it may not be the only answer, but we must now take action and get this situation changed. And that, as I say, was from veterinary surgeons, but there's also a number of MPs who recognise this problem as well. And there were sort of rumblings of, should we be looking at breed bans, should we be looking at legislation around this? But we said, let us try something else first. And that's how the concept for the IHA came about, making this actual tool that could be usable.
Brilliant. Vanessa, have you got anything to add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the way that we were looking at it was quite a holistic approach, in that whereas people had looked quite breed specifically in the past, we wanted to look at all dog health and make something which could be applied to any dog, regardless of breed or type, and to sort of help also raise public awareness about it. It was clear that there was still a lot of these types of extreme conformation dogs being fueled by social media and fashions, trends, etc. And for the wider general public, a lot of them just simply did not understand the welfare issues associated with it. So there was also that aspect as well that we wanted to make sure we had covered. And the Innate Health Assessment is such a simple, easy to use tool that really can be very easily understood by anybody, that you don't need to be a vet surgeon or trained or involved in animal welfare enforcement. So we wanted something that was going to be very accessible for everybody.
I was just going to say, if we just keep tag teaming a little bit here, it might be worthwhile, Joe, just explaining what innate health is, because we've kind of almost jumped on. So essentially within, and this is a totally new concept, essentially within health, historically health in animals was considered similarly to health in humans, where it was considered as being an absence of disease. So essentially you measure an animal for disease, and if the animal hasn't got disease, then it's healthy, right? Now that probably works reasonably well for humans, but it does not work well for dogs. And it doesn't work well for dogs because we have taken the original canine body and morphed it over the last 100, 150, 200 years of artificial selection to become the most diverse mammalian species on this planet. So we have taken a single species and we have artificially selected. So we have some dogs that are 1 kilogram, so Chihuahuas, in weight, all the way up to dogs that are 100 kilograms, maybe Great Danes. So we have morphed these dogs, and unfortunately, along the way, some of those morphs, some of those exaggerations have gone too far, and they've caused health issues. Now, health issues in dogs then can be disease, which is end stage problem, or long before we get to disease, we can have dogs that are suffering from a reduced ability to live a dog life. And that's what innate health is. Innate health is the fuller extent of health. And it's a new concept. I developed it from Vet Compass research at the RVC over the past 5, 6, 7 years. I put together a definition of it, and it literally is defined in good innate health means that an animal has the capacity to live the full life for that species. So in other words, if I am a dog, it is expected that I am able to breathe easily. I'm able to exercise and run. I'm able to wag my tail. I'm able to bend my spine. I'm able to blink fully, and a host of other natural capabilities. Innate health is harmed, it's damaged when extreme conformation does not allow the dog to have those capacities. So if we take a natural dog and remove its nose, its muzzle, by artificial selection, that dog has a reduced capacity to breathe. That means the dog will suffer with frustration from not being able to run, not being able to sleep properly. And that's what innate health is. Once you drill down into it, it is incredibly simple. It literally just means look at an animal and see whether that animal can live the full life for that species. And that's what innate health is. We then went further and started to define conformations that limited innate health, limited the ability of an animal to live a full life. So you look to see what is it that stops an animal from breathing. Well, that's brachycephaly. What is it that stops a dog from being able to wag its tail and communicate with other dogs? Well, that's not having a tail. What is it that stops a dog from turning around and licking its backside? A very natural dog behavior. Well, that's twisted spines, hemivertebrae, and so on, the list goes. And that's where we've ended up with the Innate Health Assessment. And when you drill down into it, it is so simple. And that's what the message now is going, is to help breeders to understand, and owners and charities and academics to understand the world from the dog's point of view. So that's what Innate Health is.
So for me personally, I've been beating a drum for so many years, decades, about brachycephalic breeds that can't breathe because their airways are too short. And I'm not saying we should never have brachycephalic breeds and they should all be banished by any stretch, just that they should be able to breathe. Every being has a right to breathe, surely. Not being able to reproduce naturally, not being able to lick their own bottoms, and just these things that I've felt are so wrong, and that we're breeding more and more of because there's a supply and demand chain effectively for these dogs, because as humans who don't necessarily understand that that dog isn't making cute snuffly noises necessarily, it may well be because it can't breathe because its airway is too short. So when I heard about the IHA tool, I was absolutely overjoyed that something was finally being done at a level where people may listen, and education around that was going to happen and the word was going to get out there. What I didn't realise is that there were some people maybe who wouldn't have been as happy as I was to hear about this tool happening and coming to life. And it's not a legal requirement to use the tool by any stretch. It's more of a standard at the moment that's being set. So I guess what I'd love to know is, maybe over to you, Vanessa, is how does the IHA protect and support an ethical breeder, a good breeder who actually wants to have a welfare-centered approach to their breeding?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's definitely a big premise behind what we're doing is to try to support breeders and make life easier for them in terms of helping them to make the right breeding choices, but also to comply with the existing legislation. You're absolutely right. The IHA is completely voluntary at the moment. There's no requirement upon anybody to do it. But there is a law in place already for any licensed breeder that actually already requires people to not breed from dogs whose genotype or phenotype, i.e. their conformation, their state of health, might have an impact either upon them or on their future progeny. And the IHA is actually a really useful tool for these breeders to be able to assess their breeding dogs, see whether they show any of these particular extreme conformation criteria that the IHA tests for, and make sure that they then make the right and the responsible breeding decisions in respect of that dog. And equally, it's also a very useful tool for the licensing inspectors who are carrying out their checks to be able to, when they go and have a look around a breeding premises, look across the breeding dogs and use the IHA as a quick verification check to make sure that the dogs that are being used in that breeding establishment don't show any of the extreme conformation traits that would currently breach the law. And I think that's the point which a lot of people seem to miss, is that there is a law already in place that says you cannot breed from a dog that has these extreme conformation traits if you're a licensed breeder, and that's under the licensing regulations. As you say, at the moment, the IHA is completely voluntary. It's there to help support breeders make the right choices. It's helped to support the public who might be interested in buying a dog to have a look at the prospective parents of any puppies that they're considering getting, and also to help local authorities to be able to enforce the existing law.
That's really interesting, because I've heard things being said that I just think maybe of miscommunication, or maybe not doing sufficient due diligence into what the IHA is. But things like all dogs with short legs will be stopped from breeding, or if people are using the IHA tool, or there will never be any more brachycephalic breeds, or I can't remember what the other one I heard was, but it just to clear that up, it's not about banning breeds at all. It's not about stopping people from breeding at all. It's just about making sure that there is a welfare-centered approach, and maybe taking things back a few steps to how breeds were originally before humans got involved in these extreme I can't say the word conformity.
A mouthful. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of misinformation going around on that,
but that's not correct at all, and the legality is
no, not at all.
So Janine says, based on the predicted suffering concept the IHA has, how can you justify the loss of moderate breed type where no suffering exists? Really good question, Janine. Thank you.
Can I come back to the previous one, and then we'll come back to Janine, if you're listening, we'll come back to your questions not being forgotten. The previous one's really important, Joe, right? So the IHA was launched in 27th of November. The IHA has been hugely embraced by every single sector involved in dog welfare. So all the charities, the veterinary associations, the academics, welfare associations, basically universally accepted. There has been wide embracing from breed clubs, breed associations, and breeders. There are obviously a small sector of breeders who are resisting a little bit and are taking some time to embrace the changes that will come with IHA. IHA does reframe how we think about dogs. Breed is really important. So the breed concept is alive and well in dogs, and we want to support it. It's how humans think about everything. It doesn't matter whether it's cars or pencils or chocolate bars. We think about things in categories, and breeds are categories. So the IHA is there to support breeds, to make breeds sustainable for the future, and to avoid breed bans. As Marisa said, breed bans were being considered before the IHA. So we're here to stop that if possible. And the way to do that is for those breeds, the subset of breeds that currently many dogs have extreme conformation, is to move them towards moderation, just kind of getting towards Janine's question. The IHA is supporting that. It's a 10-year time frame built in, and it's allowing breeders to take back control of the breeding decisions that they used to make. 20, 30, 40, 50, 70 years ago, breeders decided what animals they would breed with to create new and better next generations. So the IHA is just trying to give back control to breeders to make those decisions, and we're helping them to understand which conditions, which conformations are extreme. Unfortunately, there is a subset of breeders that are still struggling with some of these concepts, but they are coming on a journey with us, and we will get there as humanity. So the breeds are really important, and breeds will not be banned under IHA. The misinformation that's out there, I really wish that wasn't going on. It is causing so much unnecessary anxiety to so many good people, where they're listening to information that is just not correct. And this is one of, this podcast is going out on Facebook initially. This is one of the issues with social media. Anyone can say anything on social media. It is risky. Marisa and Vanessa, I'm not sure if you have any comments on that, and then we'll come to Janine's question.
Only to say that we've taken some of the breeds that may struggle with extreme.
I can't hear you, Marisa. I don't know if
I can hear Marisa.
Yes. My audio keeps going.
We'll get there. So we've taken some of the breeds that do struggle, are known to struggle with extreme conformation, and we've shown how they could evolve and change to still look like the breed, but with more moderate conformations. So there's no issue here about stopping certain breeds or banning breeds or anything like that. In fact, it's the opposite. We're trying to circumnavigate that problem that others are looking at that as a solution for, to say we can preserve breeds through the IHA actually. So any breed with moderate types of conformation are going to pass and will be fine. We've trialled many of the dogs, and there's been misinformation about all sorts of breeds saying they wouldn't pass when actually they would. You know, at the end of the day, we are showing a pathway forward for the preservation of many breeds of dogs that we know are loved and make really good family pets. So that's been the aim of the IHA, and if people look into it further, they will realise that. Otherwise, we will get to a point where, you know, under the Animal Welfare Act and under potential future legislation, these dogs cannot be bred from because they are suffering, many of them. So the IHA is a positive thing that we really want to work with the Royal Kennel Club and breeders and the welfare groups to really ensure a positive future for dogs and dog breeding. That's been our ambition. The all-party parliamentary group really wants to support good UK home breeders. That's one of our priorities, to make sure we find ways to support that community and stop the imports and stop the backyard and the puppy farms and all of that kind of thing. So it's in all our interests to work together to deliver on that and get the public, which is after all the market, the driver, it's all demand and supply, to change what they're asking for.
Yeah, I didn't hear the start of Marissa's. We're having a nightmare with our audios, aren't we? Yeah, I did. Marissa may have already said this, but in terms of moderate breed type, we wouldn't need to justify losing moderate breed type because we would be preserving moderate breed type. That's precisely what the IHA is trying to do. So it's only extreme conformation traits that we are trying to move back towards moderate traits. So you could almost turn Janine's question absolutely on its head and say that actually that's precisely what we are doing, is we are helping to preserve moderate breed types within this process. And as Marissa said, if we continue on the current trajectory of extreme conformation breeding, seeing the types of dogs that are being bred and the very extensive amounts of suffering that many of these dogs are enduring, something a lot more unpalatable for breeders may come about than the IHA in terms of the type of breed bans that other countries are going down.
Yeah, just to build, that's really good that you've come on to Janine's question, Vanessa, because we hadn't actually hit it yet, but that's really good. And your answer is absolutely perfect. Janine, if you're listening, the IHA is to support moderate breed type. If you have moderate breed type, you will not be failing the IHA, any of the criteria. So it's to support moderate breed type. It's also worth noting that the IHA includes no mention anywhere of breed. The IHA is about dogs. It's about basic conformation, and it is breed agnostic. So essentially, it is looking at a dog as a living sentient animal that should be able to breathe, blink, eat, flex its spine, wag its tail, run, exercise, give birth. It's just looking at all the basic innate health capabilities of any dog. And essentially, anyone who loves their breed, whether they're a breeder, an owner, would want their dog to be capable of doing everything that a dog should naturally be able to do. And any ethical or good breeder will only agree with the IHA when it says that we should be moving dogs towards a physical capacity to be able to breathe, blink, eat, flex their spines, wag their tails, etc. I do not see anyone who would disagree with any of those criteria or with any of the natural capabilities that we should be enforcing and ensuring that dogs have. So there is nobody out there who loves dogs that would say that we shouldn't allow a dog to flex its spine or to blink.
Now, I know that Marissa, you had a prior engagement and you've pushed it back, and I know we've only got about 10 minutes.
When Vanessa left, your sound's gone. Something happens when she leaves that does something to the sound there. Hang on, I'll have to come back in a second.
Hopefully, I'm back. Am I back?
I've got you back now.
Yes,
yeah,
you were there all the time.
I was there all the time.
But I can't hear Dan. I can hear you, Jay, but I can't hear Dan now.
How bizarre. I've got a question here from Shula that I'm going to come on to in a minute, and it's one that I had myself when I first I first heard about the IHA around Merles, because I wasn't aware that there was a challenge when you breed a double Merle. So I'll come on to your question in a minute, Shula, but I just want to go to Marisa, because I know that we've only got a few more minutes with Marisa. Can you hear me all right, Marisa?
Yeah, I can now, until Vanessa gets back. Brilliant. And then it will go, so go quick.
I just wanted, before you shoot off, I just wondered whether you could tell us a bit more about the tech of the app itself and how the app works, who owns the data, just any questions that you might have already been asked that you feel our listeners might benefit from hearing about the tech side.
So the data sits with APGAW, so we look after it, protect it, follow GDPR, but also sort of analyse what's happening so that we know when people put out misinformation such as this dog wouldn't pass, we know which dogs have passed. So it's incredibly useful for us. But ultimately, the tech, we were very fortunate. There was an organisation called PetProve that had been set up by two very excellent people, Kate and Gary. And Kate had been through her own difficult situation buying a puppy in which she had been tricked, basically. Somebody had, pretended there was a puppy in existence and it wasn't. So this is a business that is set up to try and improve the process for the public of getting a puppy and all the welfare around it. And we were really lucky to meet them at the time that we were discussing the IHA, because they helped us develop the tool and did it pretty much pro bono. So that has been incredibly fortunate for us. And it's set up exactly as it needs to be set up. We can amend it if we need to amend it, if people are finding it difficult to use and things. So we've been really open to getting feedback, and we still are really open to getting feedback on how the whole thing works. That's been the process. We launched this in November, and we said, let's go for 6 months and see how this all pans out and see how user friendly it is and what people think of it. So people are very welcome, listeners are very welcome to get in touch and give us their thoughts on that. The tool sits within our IHA, APGAW IHA website, where it is protected. We don't share any information with anyone else, obviously, that's all protected, so people can use it safely, knowing that we're GDPR compliant and we're not doing anything else but trying to help breeders and the public figure out what they should be looking for in a puppy or in breeding their dogs. So we are really keen to sort of get the feedback on how user-friendly people are finding it. But yeah, it's been a very fortunate position to find ourselves in, that people have given up their time voluntarily because they care about this issue so much, to build the website, the tool, help us with all the branding and things. We've been very fortunate.
Yeah. Absolutely. And just that fact in itself shows how passionate people are about actually making the future a more welfare-centred place for dogs, to regress on all the human cruelty, blatant cruelty in my mind, that we're seeing in front of us. And I'm no legal beagle. Sorry, Vanessa, you might not be a beagle, but I do think that what we're seeing are breaches of the Animal Welfare Act in front of our faces every single day, with dogs that can't breathe, dogs that, all the things that can't blink, all the things.
Well, the Animal Welfare Act, which I remember coming into force very clearly, it sets out the need for the animal to be able to exhibit normal behaviour. And not to have that struggle, so perform its natural functions. So I think that there are questions around that, but it's all quite opaque, and that's allowed us to get to the situation where we are in. As we say, the licensing, dog breeding licensing regulations kind of pin it down a bit more. But you can put laws in left, right, and centre. Doesn't necessarily mean you'll get the behaviour change you need. And behaviour change is a really crucial part of this, which is why we want to work with the whole community so much, and why APGAW is well placed to do that, because we don't have skin in the game. We're a parliamentary group that's simply here to improve the welfare of animals. But yeah, behaviour change is the most important thing, getting people to recognise this, because we know, and you said it at the beginning of the podcast, so many people will see their dog panting and say, oh, it's cute, isn't the snuffling noise cute? Or it's running around in circles trying to itch its bottom, it's funny. But actually that's the dog trying to do something that's very natural to it and not being able to, so it's not very nice for the dog. So we've got to change those perceptions and bring the public and breeders with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, thank you so much, like I say, for jumping on. We're very grateful that you felt this was important and managed to push
absolutely do. And as the parliamentary group, as the main representative, I would say that we all remain open to input and everyone getting involved in this. It's never been designed as something that blocks anyone out or says, you know, part of this conversation and this movement. We really want to welcome people into it. So we're totally up for engaging. We're up for reviewing the IHA consistently, and we're up for other tools as well. If other people have got good ideas, then we are up for supporting them. So thank you for having me. I'll leave you in the very capable hands of Dan and Vanessa.
Thank you. Take care. Right. Are we all back in the room?
I can't hear you again.
Vanessa's audio.
I'm going to exit and come back in again. I'm like a yo-yo.
That's cool, because this question is actually for I think more for you really, Dan. It's about the Merle making a dog unhealthy. So Shula says, I like the concept. I have questions with some of the points within the IHA. Merle doesn't make a dog unhealthy. The problem comes with breeding Merle to Merle. Could the IHA not bring that to the attention of breeders and pet owners instead of moving towards not breeding Merle dogs at all in 10 years' time?
Yep, this is a great question, and thank you very much, Shula, for raising this. Within the criteria within the IHA, we have 10. We started with, actually even before we started chatting with APGAW, I had a list of 25, and we whittled that down during our piloting process. Merle was one that Vanessa, Marisa, and I thought long and hard about including, because it's slightly different to all of the other ones. The other 9, when they're present, all lead to some level of loss of capability for the dog, of some function, whether that's breathing or movement. Any loss of capability legally is termed as suffering. It may not be suffering to the point when we would classify it as serious suffering, but it is a loss of some capability and it is causing some suffering. Merle was the one exception to that. And we thought long and hard about it, and it's one that we will continue to chat about with breeders, and we may well review and add extra guidelines around for breeders. Merle is spreading. It's kind of breed standard in some breeds. Somehow it's become accepted over the years, and the breeders have become very good at understanding how to control the issues. Merle to Merle breeding leads to issues of blindness and deafness. But it's spreading now to a lot of other breeds because it can dramatically raise the value of dogs. So Merle dogs are just being crossbred into bulldogs and French bulldogs. It can add thousands of pounds to the values of those puppies. The new breeders that are just breeding those French bulldogs or whatever for profit probably don't have a really good understanding of Merle. And there's likely to be much greater impact in those breeds. So we've included it more because from a population level, it's a huge issue, rather than for the breeds where the breeders are quite used to handling it. So it does need a little bit of nuance, and it may well be we will add guidelines to it that might, for example, suggest that if the dogs have been genetically tested for Merle, then that would be okay. And there is an issue with some Merle dogs where they're cryptic Merles, where they don't look physically like Merles, but they're carrying the Merle genetics. It's quite complex genetics. So Shula, thank you for that message. It is one we're looking at, and this one probably will be adapted over time. I have to say, the entire, and Marisa said this, it's worthwhile emphasizing, the IHA isn't a static tool. The IHA will evolve, and it's one of the things that, again, with dogs, and I think this is one of the issues that some of the resistance we're getting is where there's a feeling that dogs shouldn't evolve, that dog breeds are breeds, and it's the way they've always been, and they must never change. That just isn't how biology works. Biology evolves, and the IHA will evolve. It will change over time. We may add new criteria, we may remove criteria, we may shift the cut points. It will all be in discussions with our key partners. So the Royal Kennel Club, the veterinary associations, the different universities, the breed clubs, the charities. So the aim of the IHA is that it will constantly evolve to best suit the needs of dogs. And it may well be as, let's imagine, new breeds become suddenly popular. Social media can drive dramatic changes in breed popularity, that we may well need to shift the criteria to accommodate the new demography, the new population of dogs that's out there. So Vanessa, can you hear us now? Yes?
I can hear you for now, yeah.
So,
I don't know how long I'll be able to hear you for, but it keeps
Yeah.
coming and going. I haven't had this before, so apologies.
Okay.
I don't know. It's some gremlin in my system, but
I know that we've not got long left, and we always seem to run over on the podcast because we've got so much to talk about. But I just wanted to, there's so many questions, but I wanted to ask about cats, because cats are bred with extreme conformities now as well, to their health detriment. Is there any plan to bring out a tool for cats?
Vanessa, do you want to start on that?
Yeah, well, short answer is yes. And we're already looking to sort of start working groups and think about how the cat IHA may look. Yeah, there is more research to be done around cats, and in particular to the associated welfare suffering that some extreme conformations can cause. And obviously we have been hugely focused for the last 3 years in developing the dog tool. It's taken all of our energies, but we are very, very aware of the fact that cats are an increasing problem. You know, we are seeing some very irresponsible breeding of cats who really do have an awful lot of suffering that they have to contend with, and so yeah, it's firmly on our radar, and something we're starting to look into now and start to work on.
It's worth noting on cats, Joe, and as Vanessa said, we will be doing cats. In fact, we're already started doing cats. That it's very different to dogs. So in dogs, the vast majority of dogs have some breed heritage. So it's almost impossible to find a dog that doesn't have breed heritage. So dogs are either of a breed, so purebred, in the UK about 70%, or they're designer crossbreed, huge numbers now, and they're rising cockapoos, cavapoos, labradoodles, the list goes on, or they're a Heinz 57, yeah, where you can look at the dog and you can say, well, you're a crossbreed, but you've got a bit of collie or a bit of dachshund or whatever in you, right? So almost 100% of dogs have breed heritage. So that means that somewhere along the line, some human has actively selected for some exaggeration to create that breed. Right, and that's dogs. Cats are totally different. The majority of cats do not have any breed heritage. So about 80% of cats are muggies. So they are literally the original domesticated feline species that have just continued. And then maybe 20%, it depends on where we're getting our information from, maybe 20% are of some form of breed. So that means that the situation is totally different in cats. Second thing is that the evidence base on cats is much less. Dogs somehow have had lots of research over the past 10, 20, 30 years. Cats haven't. There's been way less funding, way less organization, and way less interest in cats. So the evidence base lags. The third thing is that the cat organizations have embraced using breed as a way to limit extreme conformation. So GCCF, for example, does not recognize Scottish foals. So the cat organizations have taken it upon themselves to use breed as a way to limit extreme conformation. Part of that is because breed is relatively new and relatively infrequent in cats. That is not the situation in dogs. And that's one of the reasons why we are not going down the line of breed bans supporting them. Unfortunately, much of the misinformation around the IHA actually is kind of promoting breed bans, and there's lists floating around online of 40 breeds that will be banned and 60 breeds that will be banned. And that really is doing so much harm to dogs because it's raising the spectre of dog breeds being banned, which the IHA actively is trying not to do. And then the final thing with cats is that the popularity of the extreme breeds is incredibly susceptible to social media. So there are a number of pop stars, 2 in particular, that have driven popularity for Scottish Folds. Munchkin cats also are getting involved in this. So social media can suddenly make one breed like Scottish Folds, which is an animal that spends its entire life suffering from its osteochondrodysplasia, these bone and cartilage issues in that breed, mainly because social media has driven it and made these animals seem cute. And this is one of the things the IHA is trying to do, is trying to change cute from meaning something that is different to the natural animal. So provided the dog doesn't look like a natural dog, that somehow is now interpreted as cute. Whereas we're trying to flip the wider social conversation back to, well, the dog should look like a dog and behave like a dog. So cuteness becomes being able to run, being able to play, being able to lick your backside, being able to wag your tail. Cuteness is actually being a dog, as opposed to currently where cuteness is doing something that is not dog-like, preventing a dog from being a dog. So cats, certainly it is coming. We're working on it, but it will be very, very, very different in how it will need to be established.
Oh, I could talk to you guys all night. I've just got 2 more questions, but I'm going to kind of combine them into one. Otherwise, I will keep you all night. So the extreme confirmation crisis is big. So firstly, how big is it? And secondly, off the back of that, how does the IHA tool protect dog guardians, owners, pet parents from making poor acquisition choices? Because we see so many heartbroken people who have, with the best of intentions, bought a dog to give it a loving home. And then that dog comes with a whole wealth of health problems and they end up heartbroken as a result. So how big is the crisis and how do we protect those people? How does the tool protect those people?
Shall I take the big one and then Vanessa, you take the wider one? Yeah. So on the big one, so essentially, the big one comes down to numbers. So I'm a vet, but I'm an epidemiologist for the last 15 years. So it comes down to numbers. Numbers always mean that we're counting something. Counting something means having defined what that something is that we're counting. So it can always be quite challenging to put numbers on this. Essentially, within the IHA, we've got 10 criteria. If we even look at 3 of those criteria, so if we look at flat faces, we look at being a dachshund type breed, so not all short-legged dogs, just a dachshund type breed, and we look at dogs with congenitally short or absent tails. Those 3 criteria alone, if we look at the dogs in the UK within VetCompass, so millions of dogs, we've got over 16 million dogs in our database from the UK, those 3 confirmations alone sum to 29% of UK dogs. So 29%, so almost a third of UK dogs have either one or more of flat faces, dachshund type, or congenital short-tailed. That does not mean that all of those dogs are suffering severely. Many of those dogs are not. Many of their levels of brachycephaly may be quite minor, but it does mean there is going to be some impact. Nature would not keep wild dogs all looking the way they look unless there was some impact from the way that we have changed them. So the scale of the problem is absolutely huge, and that's at a population level. The second way to look at the scale of the problem is how badly affected is an individual animal by extreme conformation. And if we look at some of the current dogs, so not all French bulldogs, there are lots of really good breeders out there who are trying to breed moderate French bulldogs. So French bulldogs with longer noses, with longer tails, with flexible spines. And I've seen lovely examples of them. And that's what the IHA is driving towards, reshaping French bulldogs and Shar-Peis and dachshunds and all of these other breeds that have some extreme conformation challenges. But if we look at a typical extreme French bulldog, the impact on that animal's life is enormous. Those animals struggle to breathe, they struggle to exercise, they struggle to mate, they struggle to give birth, they struggle to move, to bend their spine, they struggle to eat, they get corneal ulcers. The list goes on and on and on. In vet compass studies, a typical dog from year 1 of life will live over 11 years. French bulldogs live on average 4.5 years from the first year of life. And that is the cumulative welfare cost to an individual animal and to a breed from extreme conformation. So the crisis is huge. It is a human issue. We have decided that that's how we like our dogs, but it is a human solution we can have. We can use the IHA to understand which conformations are extreme, and we can decide not to acquire a dog with those conformations going forward. And that is what we need to help support the good ethical breeders who are trying to breed away from extreme conformation. So those are breeders who are already breeding non-extreme breeds, or who are breeding moderate, going back to the question that was asked by one of your listeners, who are breeding for moderate conformation within breeds that typically have been extreme. And we can save those breeds by moving them all to moderate conformation. So that's the scale of the issue. It is huge. Now, second part of your question, Vanessa, who is a solicitor, can answer from a more legal perspective.
Well, in terms of my understanding, the question was more, how does the tool help the general public in terms of their puppy buying and their choices? And I think it's twofold. First of all, you can go on the IHA website. There's a wealth of information there about extreme conformation and the welfare issues and what to be looking for. There's the quick check version of the tool that a buyer can use just to quickly run through the criteria, so they're aware of what they're looking for when they go to look at a puppy. Now, obviously, some of these conformations are not going to become apparent in a puppy, but the purchaser will be looking at the parent dogs, considering, what does mum look like, what does dad look like. If the puppies have these, if the parents have extreme conformation traits, then the puppies are more likely to go on to have them. And then also the breeder hopefully will do the IHA. If the dog has passed, they'll get an IHA certificate. And from that, they'll be able to show that to prospective puppy purchasers, maybe include it in the puppy pack, so that if you're going to get a puppy and you ask the question that, have the parent dogs, both parent dogs, it's obviously 50-50 match here, so you need to make sure that the sire as well as the dam has been tested. Have they passed the IHA? And that should give a good degree of assurance to a puppy purchaser that for those 10 extreme conformation traits, which we know to be the most problematic currently, the main traits that we're most concerned about, the puppy shouldn't go on to develop them. So that from a perspective of a puppy purchaser and general public, raising awareness, getting the IHA certificate, using the IHA website to get more information are all sort of key ways in which the IHA can help.
Fantastic. So the IHA tool, to dispel some myths that I've heard, are not trying to stop people from breeding. It's not anti-breeding, it's not anti-breed, it's in fact protecting breeds and making sure that the welfare of those breeds is restored, rather than carrying on the decline at the detriment of the welfare of those dogs. And it's about a dog being a free-thinking, sentient being that's able to actually be a dog rather than live a life of suffering.
And I think it's also about supporting breeders, Jo. So we had a great example recently. One of the dogs who passed the IHA. At the moment, you're allowed two fails, and you can still pass. So you can fail on 2 of the criteria, and the dog will still pass, still can be used for breeding. But this particular dog got a score of 9 out of 10, so had passed on everything bar one criteria, which happened to be the eyelid conformation criteria. So does the eye close properly functionally? Is there any turning out of the eyelid, turning in of the eyelid? And it failed on that one criteria. Now, that doesn't mean for that breeder that they shouldn't breed from that dog anymore, but it does alert them to the fact that on a conformation level, that dog might be struggling in terms of its eyelid conformation. And therefore, when they're thinking about a mate for the dog, select a mate who has particularly beautifully conformed eyes, so that, you know, don't select another mate who also maybe has a red flag on the eyelid conformation. Choose one that doesn't, and then hopefully what you will then produce from that will be your breeding stock for the future, which will be the same breed of dog, the same dog, but just with nicely conformed eyes that function as they should do. And that's really what we're saying to people is, you know, maybe pick your Dachshund who has a slightly longer leg and breed from that one in future. Don't be looking always for the extreme traits and using that breeding stock, because that it seems to be what's fashionable at the moment.
Fantastic. We're going to have to wrap up there because we are already well over our 45 minutes. But thank you so much for spending the time to come on this evening and giving up your time to share more information about the tool with our listeners. If anyone watching does have any questions or anything, as you've heard, these guys are human. They're genuinely doing this because they want to increase the welfare of our dogs, as do we all. You can head over to innatehealthassessment.org and there's a contact us form. It's actually linked to in the footer no matter what page you're on, so you don't even have to look for it. You can just scroll to the bottom and click on the contact us form and pop a message over. I'd also just like to highlight that as dog professionals, if you are a professional, if you are using social media as a platform for your dog business, no matter what capacity or whether you're just using it personally, we've all got a responsibility to make sure that the media that we're putting out isn't making these extreme conformations cute, like Dan said earlier, I guess is the best way of putting it, because where we have got cute pugs, there's been research done that shows that a pug's skull is very similar to that shape of a baby, a human baby. Our maternal instincts or paternal instincts go crazy, and we are drawn to them because they're cute. But actually, we need to take responsibility for the media that we're putting out there and make sure that we're not driving those booms in certain cases that are of extreme conformation. So on the IHA website, innatehealthassessment.org, you can see that there is a media section for you to look at on there that gives guidance. So if you're not sure, just pop onto the website and have a look, innatehealthassessment.org. But I will let you guys go. I can see that Penny's joined us. I think we've got a bit of a time delay, so I'm just going to pop on with Penny to wrap up, but I'll let you guys shoot off. Thanks so much for coming on this evening.
Thank you very much for having us. Apologies for my audio keeping in and out all the time, but thank you for having us on the show.
Thank you very much, Jo. I noticed at the start you had said your podcast was the podcast that dogs would want you to listen to. And I would really say the IHA is the website your dogs would want you to visit. So please, everybody, do go to the IHA website. You will learn so much. You can go as a breeder or you can go as an owner. There's two different ways of using the IHA. But it's humanity. It's all of us together. We love dogs and we can create a better future for dogs, sadly, than the one some of our dogs have had. So thank you very much, Jo, for sharing this information and allowing us to chat with your listeners.
Not at all. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello, is there a Penny in the house? I think Penny's got audio problems as well. Oh, we're not good on our technology this evening. So I think that you will all agree that this evening's podcast episode has been a really valuable one for anyone who really genuinely cares about dogs and their welfare. If you have got any questions for the Innate Health Assessment team, whether it's that you've heard something like the short-legged breeds will never survive this, or I can never show pictures of my pug online, or whatever it is, please do pop in a message, write a comment on here. We will make sure that every comment is answered. We want to educate people about how they can improve the welfare of dogs moving forward into the future, because we cannot continue with the decline in health that we have seen with the extreme conformations. So please do comment, reach out, DM either myself or pop a message through the contact us form. It's so important that these conversations are happening, that myths are dispelled, and that only the facts are through. And if there is something that's constructive, there is something that needs to be changed, then these guys are open to taking action on that to make sure that the Innate Health Assessment tool is the best that it possibly can be for the welfare, for the future of dogs across the world. So thanks again to everyone who's joined us live. If you're watching on playback, then please do pop a comment. Let us know that you've watched and listened, and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you for listening to the Dog Expert Podcast, the podcast dogs would want you to listen to. If you've enjoyed this episode, do come and let us know in our free Facebook group for dog lovers everywhere, Ethical Dog Training with Canine Principles. That way we can make more content like this that you'll love. We would love for you to leave a review on here and hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode.